In the year 2147, humanity's gaze had stretched far beyond the confines of Earth. The stars, once distant and unreachable, were now within reach thanks to centuries of technological progress. Among the many tools aiding this exploration was the Deep Space Array, a sprawling network of telescopes orbiting Saturn. It scanned the cosmos tirelessly, searching for signs of life or anything that might hint at intelligent civilizations. Dr. Ilara Voss sat in the dimly lit control room aboard the Aurora, a state-of-the-art exploration vessel stationed near the array. Her sharp eyes flickered across holographic screens filled with streams of data. For months, her team had been analyzing signals picked up by the array, but most were nothing more than cosmic noise, radiation bursts, stellar flares, or echoes from dead stars. But today felt different. A faint, rhythmic pulse caught her attention. It wasn't random. It repeated itself like a heartbeat, deliberate and precise. "Captain," she called out, her voice steady but tinged with excitement. Captain Ryder Kane, a tall man with graying hair and piercing blue eyes, stepped into the room. He leaned over her shoulder, studying the waveform on the screen. "What am I looking at?" he asked. "It's a signal," Ilara replied. "Not natural. This has structure, patterns. Someone, or something, is sending it." Kane raised an eyebrow. "Are you sure?" Ilara nodded, already typing commands into her console. "I ran spectral analysis. It's not interference, and it's definitely artificial. Listen." She activated the audio feed. A low hum filled the room, punctuated by sharp clicks, spaced evenly apart. Then came a pause, followed by a new sequence of tones. It almost sounded like language. The crew gathered around, their faces reflecting a mix of awe and disbelief. Humanity had long dreamed of finding proof of extraterrestrial life, but few believed it would happen in their lifetime. Ilara worked quickly, running algorithms to decode the message. Hours passed before she found fragments of meaning hidden within the patterns. Words began to emerge, not spoken, but implied through mathematical logic. Pain, loss, help. "This isn't just communication," Ilara said softly, her heart pounding. "It's a distress call." Kane frowned. "Distress? From where?" She pointed to a star map displayed on another screen. A blinking red dot marked the source, a planet orbiting a dying red dwarf star nearly 30 light-years away. Its sun was fading, casting its world into perpetual twilight. Life there, if it existed at all, would be struggling to survive. "We can't ignore this," Ilara insisted. "If there's even a chance someone out there needs our help, we have to go." Some members of the crew exchanged uneasy glances. Their current mission involved mapping uncharted sectors of space, not chasing mysterious signals. Fuel and supplies were limited, and altering course could jeopardize the entire expedition. But Ilara's conviction was unwavering. "Think about it," she urged. "This could be humanity's first contact with another species. Do we really want to turn away?" Kane hesitated, weighing the risks against the potential rewards. Finally, he sighed. "All right," he said. "We'll investigate. But if this turns out to be a wild goose chase, don't say I didn't warn you." As the Aurora adjusted its trajectory toward the distant star system, Ilara couldn't shake the feeling that they were heading toward something extraordinary. Little did she know, this decision would change not only her life, but the fate of 2 civilizations forever. The journey to the dying star system took weeks, but anticipation filled every moment aboard the Aurora. For Dr. Ilara Voss, sleep became a distant memory as she pored over the signal's fragments, trying to decipher more of its meaning. The message grew clearer with each passing day. Cries for help, warnings of despair, and faint traces of hope woven into the patterns. It was as though the sender had poured their very soul into the transmission, desperate for anyone to hear. When the Aurora finally arrived at the edge of the alien world's orbit, the crew gathered on the observation deck. What they saw left them speechless. The planet below was shrouded in perpetual twilight. bathed in the dim red glow of its fading sun. Its surface was scarred by deep cracks and jagged mountains, evidence of geological upheaval caused by the dying star. Yet, amidst the desolation, faint glimmers of light flickered in the darkness. Artificial lights, clustered together like beacons of survival. "This place looks haunted," muttered Lieutenant Marcus Hale, the ship's pilot, as he adjusted the controls for atmospheric entry. "Haunted or not, we're going down there," Captain Kane said firmly. "Let's find out who, or what, is waiting for us." The landing party consisted of Ilara, Kane, and 2 security officers armed with non-lethal weapons. As their shuttle descended through thick clouds of dust and ash, the air outside grew colder. When they touched down near one of the glowing clusters, they stepped out cautiously onto brittle ground. The air was thin but breathable thanks to environmental suits designed for hostile environments. It didn't take long for the aliens to appear. They emerged from shadowy crevices in the rocky terrain, tall, insectoid creatures with segmented exoskeletons that shimmered faintly in the low light. Their large, multifaceted eyes reflected the dim glow of their surroundings, and delicate antennae twitched atop their heads. Instead of speaking, they communicated silently. A wave of emotions flooded the minds of the humans. Sadness, fear, curiosity. Ilara gasped, clutching her temples. "They're inside my head," she whispered. "I can feel them." "It's telepathy," Kane realized, his voice tense. "Stay calm. Don't resist." The emotions shifted, forming fragmented images in the crew's minds. Visions of towering cities made of crystal-like structures appeared, humming with energy. Then came scenes of destruction. Fires consuming the land, skies darkened by smoke, and a cruel race of invaders stripping the planet bare. Finally, the images settled on the present. Scattered survivors living underground, clinging to hope despite overwhelming odds. One of the aliens stepped forward, taller than the others. Its posture radiated authority, and its thoughts were clearer than the rest. Through flashes of memories and raw emotion, it introduced itself as Thelix, an elder among its people, the Zaeliths. They had been waiting for someone, anyone, to answer their call. "We are sorry," Thelix projected gently, sensing the humans' apprehension. "We have suffered much. We feared no one would come." Ilara found herself drawn to the aliens' presence, feeling the strange kinship despite their differences. She nodded slowly, choosing her words carefully. "We heard your message. You asked for help. Tell us how we can assist you." Felix hesitated, then shared another vision. A massive crystalline artifact buried beneath the planet's surface. It pulsed faintly with residual energy, a relic of their once great civilization. But repairing it required resources and trust they no longer possessed. As the crew absorbed this revelation, Kane exchanged a glance with Ilara. This mission was far bigger than they'd imagined. Helping the Zaeliths wouldn't just save a species, it might also unlock secrets capable of changing humanity's future. But first, they needed to prove they weren't like the ones who had abandoned the Zaeliths before. Back aboard the Aurora, the crew gathered in the briefing room to discuss what they had learned from the Zaeliths. Dr. Ilara Voss stood at the center, her holographic display projecting images of the crystalline artifact Thelix had shown them. The artifact pulsed faintly in the projection, its intricate patterns suggesting it was once a source of immense power. But now it lay dormant, buried beneath layers of rock and ash on the dying planet. "They call it the crystalline heart," Ilara explained, her voice tinged with both excitement and unease. It was the core of their civilization, a device that sustained their cities and stabilized their environment. Without it, their world began to collapse. Captain Ryder Kane leaned forward, his brow furrowed. "So why isn't it working anymore? And why haven't they fixed it themselves?" Ilara hesitated before answering. Through her telepathic connection with Thelix, she had uncovered more than just technical details about the artifact. She had glimpsed fragments of the Zaeliths' history, fragments filled with betrayal and heartbreak. Centuries ago, she began, another alien race visited this planet. They called themselves the Kryn. At first, the Kryn seemed like saviors. They promised to help the Zealoths save their star, which was already showing signs of instability. In exchange, they asked for access to the crystalline heart and its energy reserves. Lieutenant Marcus Hale crossed his arms, skepticism written across his face. That sounds like a pretty sweet deal. What went wrong? Ilara's expression darkened. The Kryn lied. Once they gained control of the heart, they drained its power completely, leaving the Zealoths with nothing. Then, they abandoned the planet, taking valuable resources with them. The Zealoths tried to rebuild, but without the heart, their technology failed. Their society crumbled, and their star continued to die. The room fell silent as the weight of the story sank in. Humanity had encountered evidence of advanced alien civilizations before, but never one so cruelly exploited. The idea that such betrayal could happen between species made everyone uneasy. "This changes things," Kane said finally, breaking the silence. "If we step in, the Zealoths might see us as another threat. Or worse, they might think we're here to finish what the Kryn started." Ilara nodded, understanding his concern. "I know, but Thalix trusts us, or at least he wants to. He knows we're different. That's why he reached out. But can we really fix this thing?" asked Ensign Priya Patel, the ship's chief engineer. "We don't even know how it works. For all we know, repairing it could take years, or be impossible." Ilara turned to the hologram again, zooming in on the artifact's design. Felix mentioned there are archives hidden underground, records of their old knowledge. If we can access those, we might find blueprints or instructions. It won't be easy, but it's our best shot. Kane rubbed his temples, considering their options. Helping the Zealoths would require time, resources, and risk, all of which were in short supply. Yet, abandoning them felt unthinkable. "All right," he said after a long pause. "We'll proceed cautiously. Let's start by locating these archives. But remember, we're walking into uncharted territory. Everyone stays alert." As the meeting ended, Ilara lingered behind, staring at the holographic image of the crystalline heart. She couldn't shake the feeling that this mission was about more than saving a dying planet. It was about proving that not all intelligent beings were driven by greed or malice, that humanity could rise above the mistakes of others. But as she prepared to return to the surface, doubts crept into her mind. Could they truly undo centuries of suffering, or would their efforts only reopen old wounds? Only time would tell. The next morning, the crew of the Aurora prepared for their descent back to the alien world. Armed with scanning equipment and excavation tools, they set out to locate the crystalline heart, a relic that could hold the key to saving the Zealoth's dying planet. Dr. Ilara Voss led the team alongside Captain Ryder Kane, her determination unwavering despite the daunting task ahead. Felix, the Zealoth elder, guided them through jagged canyons and crumbling ruins toward the artifact's resting place. The journey was treacherous. The ground beneath their feet cracked and unstable, while faint tremors shook the air. As they approached a massive crater at the center of what once must have been a bustling city, Felix stopped abruptly. He extended one clawed limb, pointing downward into the abyss. There, he projected telepathically, his thoughts tinged with reverence and sorrow. "The heart lies buried." Ilara activated her portable scanner, its soft hum cutting through the eerie silence. The device confirmed the presence of something extraordinary below. A dense concentration of energy, unlike anything she had ever encountered. But reaching it would require more than just digging. The artifact was encased in layers of rock fused together by centuries of geological pressure. "We'll need heavy machinery," Kane said, surveying the site. "But we don't have enough power left on our shuttles to operate drills for long." Ensign Priya Patel stepped forward, already brainstorming solutions. "What if we use drones? We brought a few equipped with laser cutters for mineral extraction. They're small, but they might be able to carve through this." Ilara nodded approvingly. "It's risky, but it could work. Let's get them set up." As the team deployed the drones, Felix shared another vision, this time of the heart in its prime. The artifact had once floated above the city, radiating light and warmth, sustaining life across the planet. It wasn't just a machine. It was an extension of the Zaliths themselves, designed to harmonize with their star. Learning this only deepened Ilara's resolve. If they succeeded, they wouldn't just restore technology. They'd give an entire species hope. Hours passed as the drones worked tirelessly, carving precise channels into the hardened rock. Progress was slow, but steady. Just when it seemed they were close, disaster struck. One of the drones malfunctioned mid-operation, its laser cutter overheating and sparking violently. A chunk of debris loosened by the explosion tumbled down, narrowly missing Ensign Patel. "Everyone, back," Kane barked, pulling Ilara away from the edge of the crater. The others scrambled to safety as dust filled the air. When the chaos subsided, Ilara turned to Priya. "Are you okay?" Priya nodded, though her hands trembled slightly. "I'm fine, but we lost 2 drones. At this rate, we won't have enough to finish the job." Frustration rippled through the group. Time was running out, not just for the mission, but for the Zaliths. Without the heart, their world would continue its slow descent into darkness. Felix approached cautiously, his antennae drooping with concern. "We thank you for your efforts," he projected softly. "But perhaps there is another way." Ilara frowned. "What do you mean?" Felix hesitated before speaking again. "There are asteroids nearby, remnants of our past wars with the Kryn. Some contain metal strong enough to reinforce the heart. If you can retrieve them." Kane exchanged a glance with Ilara. Harvesting materials from space sounded dangerous, especially since the asteroid field was likely littered with traps left behind by the Kryn. But it was their only option. "All right," Kane said firmly. "We'll send a team to mine the asteroids. In the meantime, keep working here. We're not giving up. Not now." As the crew prepared for the new challenge, Ilara couldn't help but feel a spark of hope amidst the uncertainty. Every step forward brought them closer to proving that humanity could make a difference, even in the darkest corners of the universe. The asteroid field loomed ahead, a chaotic expanse of jagged rocks and metallic debris drifting silently in the void. Lieutenant Marcus Hale piloted the mining shuttle with precision, his hand steady on the controls as he navigated through the treacherous terrain. Behind him, Dr. Ilara Voss and Ensign Priya Patil monitored their instruments, searching for signs of the rare metals needed to repair the crystalline heart. "This place gives me the creeps," Hale muttered, his voice tense. "Feels like we're walking into a graveyard." "It's worse than that," Priya replied, studying the scanner readouts. "Look at these energy signatures. They match old Kryn tech. Whatever's out here isn't just junk. Some of it might still be active." Ilara leaned forward, her eyes scanning the screen. "We need to focus. The Zaliths are counting on us. If we can extract enough material, we might have a chance." Hale nodded grimly and guided the shuttle closer to one of the larger asteroids. Its surface gleamed faintly under the dim light of the dying star, revealing veins of shimmering metal embedded within its rocky exterior. It was exactly what they were looking for, but extracting it wouldn't be easy. As Priya deployed the mining drones, she noticed something unusual. Strange symbols etched into the asteroid's surface pulsed faintly, almost imperceptibly. She pointed them out to Ilara. "Those markings, they look artificial. Do you think this used to be part of a Kryn ship?" Before Ilara could respond, one of the drones accidentally triggered something. A low hum emanated from deep within the asteroid, growing louder until the entire structure began to vibrate. Suddenly, panels on its surface slid open, revealing rows of dormant drone-like machines, ancient Kryn defense systems, now reactivated. "Incoming," Hale shouted as several of the drones launched toward their shuttle. They moved with alarming speed, their weapons glowing ominously. "Take evasive maneuvers," Kane's voice crackled over the comms link from the Aurora. He had stayed behind to oversee operations on the planet, but was monitoring the situation closely. Hale yanked the controls, sending the shuttle into a sharp spiral. Laser blasts streaked past them, narrowly missing the hull. Inside the cabin, alarms blared as the crew scrambled to retaliate. Priya activated the shuttle's countermeasures, deploying decoy flares to confuse the attackers while Ilara worked furiously to disable the enemy drones remotely using her console. "We can't keep this up forever," Hale yelled, sweat beading on his forehead. "We need to take out their control system." There, Ilara pointed to a glowing node embedded in the asteroid's core. "That's the source. If we destroy it, we can shut them down." Priya nodded and armed the shuttle's plasma cannon. "Hold steady, Marcus. I've got one shot at this." Hale steadied the craft despite the relentless assault. Priya took a deep breath and fired. The blast struck true, obliterating the node in a brilliant explosion of light. Almost instantly, the attacking drones froze mid-flight and plummeted lifelessly back toward the asteroid. For a moment, there was silence. Then Hale let out a shaky laugh. "Well, that was fun." Ilara slumped back in her seat, relief washing over her. But there was no time to celebrate. The mining operation resumed quickly, and within hours, they had gathered enough material to reinforce the crystalline heart. As they returned to the planet's surface, the weight of their near-death experience settled over the team. Yet, amidst the danger, they felt a renewed sense of purpose. Every risk they took brought them closer to fulfilling their promise, not just to the Zaeliths, but to themselves. This mission wasn't just about survival. It was about proving that even in the face of overwhelming odds, humanity could rise above fear and make a difference. When they landed, Felix greeted them with gratitude, his telepathic voice warm with hope. "You have done more than gather resources," he projected. "You have shown courage. Together, we will restore the heart." And for the first time since arriving on this desolate world, Ilara truly believed they could succeed. Back on the alien planet, the crew of the Aurora wasted no time putting their newly acquired materials to use. Dr. Ilara Voss and Ensign Priya Patel worked tirelessly alongside Felix and a group of Zaelith engineers, piecing together fragments of knowledge from both species. The crystalline heart, now partially excavated, lay at the center of their efforts, a massive crystalline structure etched with intricate patterns that pulsed faintly with residual energy. "This is incredible," Priya murmured as she examined the artifact up close. "The design is so advanced, yet it feels alive somehow." Ilara nodded, her fingers tracing one of the glowing lines on its surface. "It's not just a machine. It's an extension of their world, and maybe even their consciousness. That's why repairing it isn't just about mechanics. We have to understand its purpose." Felix projected a wave of calm reassurance into their minds. "You are right. The heart was created to harmonize with our star, sustaining balance between life and energy. To restore it, you must align your thoughts with ours." At first, the idea seemed impossible. How could humans and Zaeliths collaborate when they didn't even share a spoken language? But over days of working side by side, a unique bond began to form. Through telepathic communication, shared experiences, and countless trials, Ilara and Felix became key figures in bridging the gap between their two species. One evening, as the sun dipped below the jagged horizon, casting long shadows across the ruins, Ilara sat with Felix near the heart. She had grown accustomed to the gentle hum of his presence in her mind. But tonight, his emotions felt heavier than usual, tinged with sadness and regret. "What troubles you?" she asked softly, meeting his multifaceted gaze. Felix hesitated before responding. His thoughts unfolded like waves, painting vivid images in her mind. He showed her memories of his people's golden age, their cities shimmering under vibrant skies, their society thriving in harmony with nature. Then came darker visions, the betrayal by the Kryn, the collapse of their civilization, and decades of watching his kind struggle to survive. "We once believed ourselves untouchable," Felix projected, his voice tinged with sorrow. But arrogance blinds all beings, whether human or Xylith. Perhaps this is why fate brought you here, to remind us that survival requires humility and trust. Ilara felt a lump rise in her throat. For weeks, she had focused solely on the technical aspects of the mission, but Thalix's words made her realize how much deeper their connection had become. This wasn't just about fixing a machine. It was about healing wounds, both physical and emotional, that had festered for centuries. The next day, progress accelerated. Guided by Thalix, the team accessed hidden holographic archives buried beneath the ruins. These records contained detailed schematics of the heart, along with instructions for stabilizing dying stars. With this newfound knowledge, Priya devised a plan to integrate the asteroid metals into the artifact's core, reinforcing its structure while reactivating its dormant systems. As they worked, collaboration between humans and Xyliths grew seamless. Tools passed between hands without hesitation, ideas flowed freely, and laughter, even across species, began to echo through the caverns. For the first time in years, hope stirred among the Xylith survivors. Their weary eyes shone with renewed determination, and whispers of rebuilding their world spread like wildfire. Captain Kane observed these developments from afar, impressed by the unity forming within the team. "Looks like we're doing more than saving a planet," he remarked to Ilara during a rare moment of rest. "We're proving that cooperation can overcome anything, even the scars of the past." Ilara smiled faintly, though her expression remained thoughtful. "I just hope it's enough. We've come so far, but there's still so much at stake." Kane placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Whatever happens next, we'll face it together. That's what makes us different from the Kryn." As the final pieces of the heart fell into place, anticipation crackled in the air. The moment of truth was near, but success was far from guaranteed. All they could do now was trust in the bonds they had forged and prepare for whatever challenges lay ahead. Just as the final preparations for activating the crystalline heart were underway, tension began to simmer among the Xyliths. Not everyone shared Thalix's optimism about humanity's intentions. Deep within the underground caverns, a faction of rogue Xyliths led by Kalis, a fierce warrior with jagged scars etched into his exoskeleton, gathered in secret. Their distrust of outsiders had festered for centuries, fueled by the betrayal of the Kryn. Kalis stood before his followers, his antennae twitching with barely contained rage. "We cannot trust these humans," he projected forcefully, his telepathic voice reverberating through the chamber. "They are no different from the Kryn. They come bearing promises, but all they seek is power." His words struck a chord with many. Memories of the Kryn's treachery still haunted them. The stolen resources, the abandoned cities, the broken lives. For some, the presence of the Aurora crew felt like an echo of that pain. "They have brought us nothing but risk," one of the rebels argued. "If we allow them to tamper with the heart, they will take it for themselves and leave us to die." Kalis nodded sharply. "Then we must act before it is too late. The heart belongs to the Xyliths alone. It is our legacy and our burden." Meanwhile, on the surface, Dr. Ilara Voss sensed something was wrong. Over the past few days, she had noticed subtle changes in the emotions projected by some of the Xyliths. Where once there had been curiosity and cautious hope, now lingered suspicion and hostility. Even Thalix seemed uneasy, though he tried to hide it. "Something's brewing," Ilara confided to Captain Kane during a quiet moment. "I can feel it. Some of the Xyliths don't trust us anymore." Kane frowned, his hand instinctively resting on the hilt of his sidearm. "Do you think they'd try to stop us?" "I don't know," Ilara admitted. "But if they do, we need to be ready." That night, the tension erupted. As Priya Patel and her team worked to calibrate the final components of the heart, a group of armed Xyliths emerged from the shadows, their claws glinting menacingly in the dim light. Kalis stepped forward, his voice cutting through the air like a blade. "You will not touch the heart again," he declared, his thoughts laced with anger. "Leave this place, or face the consequences." The human crew froze, Caught off guard by the sudden confrontation, Kane raised his hand slowly, signaling his team to remain calm. "We're here to help," he said firmly, "not to harm or steal. If you let us finish, we can save your world." Kalis snarled, his antennae flaring. "Your kind only brings destruction. We will not make the same mistake twice." Before the situation could escalate further, Felix intervened. He pushed his way through the crowd, positioning himself between Kalis and the humans. His posture radiated authority, but his thoughts carried a plea. "Enough," he projected, his voice resonating deeply. "These humans are not our enemies. They have risked their lives for us. For all of us. Would you throw away our last chance at survival because of fear?" Kalis hesitated, his resolve wavering under Felix's gaze. The elder continued, his tone softening. "I understand your pain, Kalis. Believe me, I do. But clinging to hatred will not bring back what we lost. Trust is difficult, yes, but without it, we are doomed." For a long moment, silence hung heavy in the air. Then, reluctantly, Kalis lowered his weapon. His followers followed suit, though their expressions remained wary. Without another word, they retreated into the darkness, leaving the humans and Felix's supporters alone. As the immediate threat passed, Ilara exhaled shakily, realizing how close they had come to disaster. Kane placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Let's finish this," he said quietly, "before anything else goes wrong." With renewed urgency, the team returned to their work, knowing that time was running out, not just for the mission, but for the fragile bond they had built. Every second counted, and failure was no longer an option. The final phase of the mission unfolded under a sky heavy with tension. The rogue faction's sabotage attempt had set them back hours, but the crew of the Aurora refused to let fear or fatigue derail their efforts. Dr. Ilara Voss and Ensign Priya Patel worked side by side with Felix and his team, recalibrating the crystalline heart after the disruption caused by Kalis's interference. Each adjustment brought them closer to activation, but also closer to potential disaster. "This is it," Priya said, her voice steady despite the weight of the moment. She tapped commands into her handheld console, sensing the device with the artifact's core. "Once we activate the heart, there's no turning back. If something goes wrong—" "It won't," Ilara interrupted firmly, though her knuckles were white from gripping the edge of the platform. "We've triple-checked everything. We can do this." Captain Kane stood nearby, scanning the horizon for any sign of further trouble. The air was eerily still, as if the planet itself held its breath. Behind him, the Zealoths gathered in silence, their large eyes reflecting both hope and dread. For them, this moment represented everything, salvation or ruin. Felix stepped forward, his presence calming yet commanding. He projected a single thought into everyone's minds: trust. Ilara nodded, taking a deep breath. "All right, let's begin." Priya initiated the sequence. A low hum emanated from the crystalline heart, growing louder as energy coursed through its veins. The intricate patterns etched into its surface began to glow, first faintly, then brighter, casting an ethereal light over the desolate landscape. The ground beneath their feet trembled slightly, and the air crackled with static electricity. For a fleeting moment, doubt crept into Ilara's mind. What if they'd made a mistake? What if the heart couldn't handle the strain? But before she could dwell on those thoughts, the artifact let out a pulse, a wave of radiant energy that rippled outward like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. Then, suddenly, the trembling stopped. The glow dimmed, leaving only silence. It didn't work, someone whispered, panic edging into their voice. But just as despair threatened to take hold, the sky above began to change. The dim red glow of the dying star brightened, shifting to a warm orange hue. Rays of light pierced through the thick haze, illuminating the cracked terrain below. The temperature rose slightly, vanishing the biting chill that had lingered for decades. Cheers erupted among the Zealoths, their telepathic joy washing over the humans in waves of pure elation. Felix turned to Ilara, his multifaceted eyes shimmering with gratitude. "You have done it," he projected, his voice filled with awe. "You have given us back our star and our future." Tears welled up in Ilara's eyes as she looked around at the transformed landscape. It wasn't perfect. The scars of centuries would take time to heal. But life was returning. Plants long dormant began to stir, unfurling delicate leaves toward the newfound warmth. Even the distant mountains seemed less foreboding under the revitalized light. Kane placed a hand on her shoulder, smiling. "Looks like you saved a world, Doc." Ilara shook her head, humbled. "Not me. All of us, humans and Zaliths, together." As the celebration continued, Kalis emerged from the shadows, his posture less hostile than before. Though he still harbored doubts, he approached Felix and bowed deeply. "Forgive me, Elder," he projected, his voice subdued. "I allowed my anger to blind me. You were right to trust them." Felix responded with quiet wisdom. "We are all shaped by our pasts, Kalis. But today proves that even broken things can be mended if we choose to try." Under the reborn star's glow, humanity and the Zaliths stood united, their bond forged not just by technology, but by shared courage and resilience. For the first time in generations, the Zaliths dared to dream of a brighter tomorrow, and humanity realized that their reach extended far beyond the stars. The days following the activation of the crystalline heart were filled with a sense of renewal that permeated every corner of the Zalith world. The once dying planet began to awaken, its dormant ecosystems responding eagerly to the revitalized star. Streams that had long run dry started to trickle with water again, and patches of moss-like vegetation spread across the barren ground. Even the air felt lighter, carrying traces of warmth and vitality. For the Zaliths, this transformation was more than physical. It was spiritual. Their ancient traditions, nearly forgotten in the centuries of struggle, resurfaced as they gathered to celebrate their survival. Under Felix's guidance, rituals honoring the rebirth of their star took place in the shadow of the crystalline heart. Songs resonated through telepathic connections, weaving stories of hope and resilience into the collective consciousness of their people. Dr. Ilara Voss watched these celebrations from a distance, her heart swelling with pride and humility. She had played a part in restoring not just a planet, but an entire civilization. Yet she knew the credit belonged to both species, humanity and the Zaliths working together as equals. On the final day of their stay, Felix approached Ilara and Captain Kane with a gift. In his clawed hands, he held a small shard of crystalline material, a fragment of the heart itself. Its surface shimmered faintly, pulsing with an energy unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. "This is our thanks," Felix projected, his thoughts warm with gratitude. "It contains a fraction of the heart's power, enough to aid your own world if used wisely. Take it as a symbol of our bond, and a promise that we will never forget what you have done." Ilara accepted the shard reverently, feeling its subtle vibrations against her palm. "We'll treasure it," she said softly, "and we'll honor the trust you've placed in us." As preparations for departure began, the crew of the Aurora reflected on how much had changed since their arrival. They had come seeking answers to a mysterious signal, only to find themselves embroiled in a mission that tested their ingenuity, compassion, and resolve. Along the way, they had forged friendships that transcended language and species, proving that cooperation could overcome even the deepest scars of betrayal. Back aboard the ship, Captain Kane addressed the crew during one last briefing before leaving orbit. This mission wasn't just about saving a dying planet, he said, his voice steady but tinged with emotion. It was about showing that humanity can be something greater than ourselves. Out there among the stars, we're not invaders or conquerors. We're explorers, builders, and healers. Lieutenant Marcus Hale raised his hand jokingly. "So does this mean we get medals when we get home?" Kane chuckled. "Maybe. But I think knowing we made a difference is reward enough." Ensign Priya Patel added thoughtfully. Imagine what Earth could do with this kind of energy source. If we share what we've learned responsibly, it could solve so many problems back home. Ilara nodded, gazing at the shard resting securely in its containment unit. That's the challenge now, to make sure humanity uses this gift wisely. We've been given a chance to lead by example. As the Aurora lifted off, the Zealots gathered below to watch, their antennae raised in farewell. For the first time in generations, their future looked bright, not because of technology alone, but because of the bonds they had formed with another species willing to stand beside them. Looking out at the receding planet, Ilara felt a profound sense of purpose. This mission had proven that even in the vastness of space, no one had to suffer alone. And as the ship set course for Earth, she knew their journey was far from over. It was only the beginning of a new chapter in humanity's story among the stars. The return journey to Earth was quiet but reflective, each member of the Aurora crew processing the magnitude of what they had accomplished. For Dr. Ilara Voss, sleep remained elusive as she sat in the observation deck, staring out at the endless expanse of stars. The crystalline shard gifted by the Zealots rested on a table beside her, its faint glow casting soft light across the room. It wasn't just an artifact. It was a symbol of hope, trust, and the fragile yet unbreakable bond between two species. Back on Earth, news of their mission spread like wildfire. Reports of humanity's first contact with an alien civilization dominated global headlines, sparking debates about humanity's role in the cosmos. Some hailed the crew as heroes, proof that Earth could rise above its divisions and act as a force for good in the universe. Others voiced caution, warning that wielding advanced alien technology without fully understanding it could lead to unintended consequences. At a press conference held shortly after their arrival, Captain Ryder Kane addressed these concerns directly. Standing alongside Ilara and the rest of the crew, he spoke with measured confidence. "This discovery is not just about us," he said. "It's about building bridges, showing that we can work together with other species for the greater good. But yes, it comes with responsibility. We must approach this gift humbly and thoughtfully." Ilara stepped forward next, holding up the crystalline shard for all to see. "This isn't just energy or power," she explained. "It represents something far more valuable: connection. The Zealots trusted us when they had every reason not to. Now, it's our duty to honor that trust, not just for ourselves, but for future generations." As scientists began studying the shard under strict ethical guidelines, plans were already underway to establish formal relations with the Zealots. Diplomatic teams prepared proposals for interstellar cooperation, while engineers worked tirelessly to understand how the shard's energy could be safely integrated into Earth's infrastructure. Renewable energy grids, medical advancements, and sustainable technologies were just some of the possibilities being explored. But beyond practical applications, the mission sparked something deeper, a shift in humanity's collective mindset. People around the world looked to the stars with renewed curiosity and optimism. If humans could help save a dying planet, what else might they achieve? Schools introduced lessons on interspecies diplomacy, artists created works inspired by the Zealots' culture, and governments pledged funding for further exploration missions. For Ilara, however, the journey wasn't over. As the Aurora prepared for its next expedition, this time to chart unexplored regions of space, she found herself drawn back aboard. When Captain Kane offered her a permanent position on the team, she accepted without hesitation. "You sure you're ready to leave Earth again so soon?" Kane asked one evening as they reviewed flight plans. Ilara smiled, her gaze fixed on the star map glowing before them. "There's still so much out there waiting to be discovered," she replied. "And if we've learned anything from the Zealots, it's that no one should face the darkness alone." As the Aurora launched into the void once more, its engines roaring against the silence of space, Ilara clutched the crystalline shard tightly. She knew the challenges ahead would be immense: dangerous worlds, unknown civilizations, and perhaps even more betrayals. But she also knew that every risk was worth taking if it meant planting seeds of friendship among the stars. Far away, orbiting their reborn star, the Zealots watched the skies, their thoughts reaching out toward the distant blue-green planet where new allies now carried a piece of their legacy. Together, humanity and the Zealots had proven that even in the vastness of the cosmos, compassion could bridge any divide. And somewhere, deep within the infinite night, another signal pulsed faintly, waiting to be heard.